YouTube. Good night and welcome to Mindful Life 208. Are we on now? I am your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is the 5th of the 4th. Yep, the 5th of April in the year of our Lord 2023. I'm streaming live right now on TikTok, on Instagram, and on YouTube. Wherever you are viewing this, make sure you hit that like button. Double tap that screen if you're looking at this over on TikTok. That's how you hit the like button over there. However you hit the like button, do so over on Instagram, and the same for YouTube. Get those likes pumping. Allow the algorithm to know, hey, this is good stuff. Because it's good stuff, send it out to more people. That's what it does by hitting that like button. Also, you can share the video too. I won't mind that at all. Sharing it also gets it further out there, so you can do that. The book behind you says something about a meme. Yeah, that's not a book actually. What you're seeing there with something about a meme is a game. What do you meme? Good evening, Scafty. Good evening. It's a Wednesday night, and on Wednesdays, for those of you familiar with the live, Wednesday nights are Tobago nights. Good evening, Aleki, another Tobagonian in the house. Lil Ju says how Marcos making all that money. Marcos who? We're talking Tobago on a Wednesday night, of course, because we are part of the beautiful Twin Isle Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And Tobago is not a lesser part of the Twin Isle Republic. They are just as much a part of Trinidad and Tobago as Trinidad is. What you think about BRICS? Brandon Shadia says, I think BRICS is an interesting alternative to the whole liberal economic order that the United States is part of. It's a very interesting alternative. Now, I know some people who hate the United States and what they have done across the world would be very happy with BRICS, but I would say, you know, I am not 100% certain about that. As oppressive and manipulative and as be what they might be, the United States is. BRICS, when you're talking about authoritarian countries, as much as you might not like the United States, I'm not sure how much you'd want to live under the thumb of authoritarian regimes. That's not necessarily a good idea, but who knows? We'll wait to see. Because even if BRICS is to take over, who says the United States just says okay and watches BRICS take them over? I'm not sure that's going to happen. Some Nisifrit says, big up my supervisor who does watch sick days as a capital offense. Lil Juice says, I need you to talk in my interview. Which interview is that, Lil Juice? Which interview is that? I don't know which interview it is. You know, if you're going to hire me to do an interview on your behalf, why not? All right, back to Tobago issues. There are many Tobago issues to talk about, but you know, today the video I did today on my YouTube channel, Nathan Springer over there on YouTube. If you are not subscribed, you should head over there at some point in time and be sure to be subscribed. The benefit with the YouTube channel is you could look at all of these lives and delay. If you miss any of the lives, you could go back and catch them. We are on 208, is it? So there are quite a few lives you can catch up, and I also drop regular YouTube videos nearly every day, so you can catch those too. I did a video today about land ownership in Trinidad and Tobago and how you recognize that in Trinidad and Tobago many of the politicians, they own chunks of land all over the country, and then you recognize that some of the religious institutions, some of the religions, the Anglican Church, the Roman Catholic Church, they own large swaths of land across the country too, and then we complain about not being able to find places to live and the price of houses and the price of homes here in Trinidad and Tobago. But you look at some of these structures that we inherited from the colonial days, and some of that might be part of the reason. You know, if you were in the land of your ancestors, generally speaking, very likely you would have had familial homes, some familial territory that you could go back to, and this is the Springer land. This has the Springer name, and I could find a piece of land to live here. Now, the thing is, when we are all shipped halfway, three-quarter way across the world to the new world, we don't have that same opportunity here, and nearly all of the land that is in the country is state land. So bear in mind, just so you know, state land is handed down to the present state from the colonial government before that. And how did the colonial government come to be in possession of this land as theirs? Ask that question, and then ask yourself, how is state land state land? Just a thought. But the idea of having a place to live as your own, I understand it. I understand it. Trinidadians, we have that struggle seriously here. And to start off the Tobago news out there in the style, I was looking at a developing story out there about some confusion between family members, a battle for land over in Tobago, and I just found the story interesting, so we're going to take a little view of that. Judge orders Tobago family to share property. High Court Judge Frank Sipasad has ordered the two Tobago siblings and their cousin must share a property that includes a popular Tobago bakery, ending a long-standing property fight. In a ruling on Tuesday, Sipasad ordered that Dr. Lancelot Cowie and his sister, Angela Cowie Adams, have no paper title rights and interest over the bakery located in Canby, Tobago. Here's my question to the Tobagonians. Is this bakery like very popular or something? Because I am trying to figure out, like, don't get me wrong, I found this story interesting, but how did a story about cousins having a legal squabble over land that a bakery occupies, how did that reach the national news? And listen, there were several stories on this. There were follow-up stories as like, this must be the biggest bakery in Tobago. Is Cowie's Bakery that big and famous? Next time I'm in Tobago, I must head over to that Cowie's Bakery. Fighting for bread, literally the irony. No, it's not actually for bread. And I find this story interesting. It's an interesting story. Sipasad ruled that their cousin, Ian Darlington, had adversely possessed the bakery building and the lands to the northwest of the building where a cesspit and diesel tank are located for over 16 years before the action was brought. Sipasad also ordered that Darlington, his agents, and his customers are entitled to unrestricted access to the garage and bakery parking areas. Now, let me see if I can get the history of this story for you, because the history is interesting. The history is interesting. The allegations stem from a piece of land that was originally purchased by the grandparents. Let me see if I can get the start of this story good here. According to court documents, Cowie and Cowie Adams claimed ownership of the almost 30,000 square feet property, which was purchased by their grandparents and Darlington's great-grandparents, George and Caroline Cowie, around 1937. Now, I find that's a cool thing. Good night, it's been around for years, Auntie Doo says. I believe that. It's 1937. Listen, rate up to Tanty Caroline Cowie and Uncle George Cowie. That's what you do. They purchased land in 1937. Don't doubt they purchased that for some chicken feed price back then, but they had the foresight to purchase it. And granted, your offspring coming down the line, your progeny is fighting in court over it, but nonetheless, they have it. And they are able to gain something from it. The legacy is still there that Uncle George and Tanty Caroline left down there in Canby for their family. The Cowie and Cowie Adams siblings claim that their grandparents built a house and established the bakery on the property. So the grandparents of the siblings, understand this, the siblings are suing, I think it would be their second cousin, because it's not first cousin, it's cousin once down from the next generation. They're suing their cousin, saying that he doesn't have authority to stay in the bakery. They want the entirety of the land. They are the grandchildren of the original owners, while the cousin is the great grandchild of the original owners. They also allege that their mother, Hillary, and her sister, Susanna, who was Darlington's grandmother, worked with their grandmother to develop the bakery business. So the siblings are saying their mother, direct mother, and the current bakery owner's grandmother were instrumental in building up the bakery. What's your thoughts on Trump? A bit off topic. My thoughts on Trump is that he is a populist politician, and it seems like many of the establishments still haven't quite figured out how to tackle him. But that's a whole long topic for us to go in there. We're dealing with the bakery bacchanal over in Tobago, and don't worry, we're getting to the new party eventually. After Darlington's grandmother passed away in 1985, their mother allowed his parents to run the bakery business. something seems kind of strange about that. So, sisters are running the business. One of the sister passes away. That sister's child and their spouse now run the business. The aunt says she allows them to run the business. But how does she allow them to run the business? Their mother was just as much a part of the business as the aunt was. If the aunt isn't interested in the baking business anymore, then you leave it to them. I don't really understand how it's an allowance to run the business. When their grandmother passed away in 1971 without leaving a will, their mother and her 5 siblings, including Darlington's grandmother, were set to inherit the disputed property and other family properties. After Darlington's grandmother passed away in 1985, their mother allowed his parents to run the bakery business. Yes, in 1998, their mother took out a $600,000 mortgage with her siblings' consent and financial assistance to perform renovation works on the property. The siblings claimed that their mother applied for letters of administration for the grandmother's estate in 2000. Now, how this thing all came about to the fore, Mr. Darlington went and he said he was trying to take out a loan on the bakery to do some renovation works on the bakery, and then they said, well, actually we own the entirety of the property. And he says, bet? You think so? Bet. Let's see it in court. And I understand why the judge ruled that way. Like, when I read situations like this, you understand, to me, it seems a bit like greed when you read situations like this. The siblings, from all accounts, had nothing to do with the bakery. The man has been running the bakery on pause for the last 16 years, I think they have. Before that, his parents ran the bakery. Before that, his grandmother ran the bakery. Before that, his great-grandmother ran the bakery. You're trying to tell me that, okay, you shared that great-grandmother, that was your grandmother, but you stopped out of the bakery business. You left the bakery business. And now you're turning around to say that the bakery business is yours? And the ruling that the judge made, and yes, I do find Justice Frank C. Prasad, he has some interesting rulings. He really does, and it seems like some of them are usually fair. Boy, does he like to pontificate, though. He likes a good speech. But I think he's a Presbyterian minister too, so liking a good speech and a good pontification kind of goes with the territory of being a minister of the gospel, I guess. So, but the rule that the judge said seems pretty obvious. He allowed the bakery owner to keep the bakery part of because it's a massive property, to keep the bakery part of the property and give the rest to the siblings. Okay, your mother spent money to renovate the home and the property. Well, the home is yours, but you cannot expect to take the man's bakery. Like, why would you expect that bakery to be yours? I wish most of the kind of crime news and court news in Trinidad and Tobago was like this, actually, to be very honest. Things like this that are just amicably resolved, and okay, the man is back to running his bakery, he could make his hot hops in the morning and all of that and all of that and all of that. I wish more was like that, but unfortunately, it is not. Families always fighting for things they didn't pay for. Yes, I have seen that. And well, sometimes when you see land bacchanal within families, you know, you could be tempted to make some stereotypical statements and assumptions. But some things I could understand why some things reach to fighting. You know, I really understand why some things reach to fighting. When you see the unfairness that some people have in them, there are some people, you know, who was it? Anthony B. Nobody want to plant the corn, everybody want to read the band. There are some people that are specialists at reading the band. They would watch somebody plant all the corn, watch them work in the hot sun to harvest it, watch them bring it home, and still go and just steal it from them. I find that to be some evil stuff, but there are people like that in life. There are many people like that in life who would be able to sleep comfortably with doing other people things like that. So it's a good thing when we see the court system work as it's intentioned to work. Now to the interesting stuff out of Tobago. New party time. What you all think about the new party in Tobago? The thing is, the party has not yet formed. The party is just in, it's kind of still in the planning stage, according to what they say. It's still a lot in the planning stage, but that's because they're trying to do things differently. They're not trying to do the same old. You know, they have new plans for Tobago to be a better party for the people. THA members launch new party. Tobago House of Assembly Chief Secretary Fali Augustine and other former members of the PDP will start the process to form the island's newest political party. The launch will take place at the Shore Park Cultural Complex. Well, I think it already went. Over the weekend, Augustine announced that the planning process is being managed by a team of supporters who will present ideas for the name, shape, and form the party will take. Deputy Chief Secretary Dr. Faith B. Israel said they had been removed from the process, and after receiving recommendations will expand the discussion to their wider supporters. So, you know, this new party, they aren't, the higher ups in the party aren't even involved in the planning process in terms of hands-on, in terms of selecting a name and a symbol. They're so looking for a ground up grassroots kind of performance in this thing that the ground up grassroots is selecting the name, the ground up grassroots is selecting the symbol even. PNM Tobago Council political leader Ansel Dennis, however, said he described the formation of a new political party less than halfway through PDP's overwhelming mandate as possibly the most obscene and insulting of all their indiscretions. I don't know if I would agree with that. Like, I don't think it's insulting and an indiscretion for them to attempt to form a party. I understand why it seems weird, but anyway you take it, they have found themselves in a very strange position. They have found themselves in a unique position. So any decision that they make would be something that isn't accustomed, that you aren't accustomed seeing. So almost they're charting new territory anyway they go. Any direction they take, they're still charting new territory. So I'll allow them some slack in terms of that. Innovative Democratic Alliance political leader Dr. Denise Soyafat Angus said she would wait to comment as the idea is not sure what exactly is to be launched. A similar view was expressed by former Chief Secretary and member of the One Tobago Voice, Ho-Choi Charles, who said he had to wait and see what takes place before speaking publicly. In an interview on the Tobago Updates morning show yesterday, PDP political leader Watson Duke said he thinks Tobago will reject the new party. It is difficult for anybody in this country, Trinidad and Tobago, to form a party and win. Extremely difficult or impossible, he said. He also wondered who gave a mandate to this new party, as the PDP won the last election 14-1 over the PNM. Yes and no, because as many people have pointed out, because of the Tobago system, even though they were in a party when they won, the party didn't win the elections. The individual assemblymen won their seats, and that's basically how the Tobago House of Assembly Act sees it. It's not a political party thing. Kevon says the political philosophy should be promoted by the leadership of the party. Correct. I would like to see what their political philosophy is. And if you are saying that it's grassroots led, you see, this is like a discussion sometimes I see when people talk about relationships. And, you know, there's the traditional sense of marriage where there's a head of the marriage, there's a leader in the marriage, and then there's one who is submitting, a submissive body in the marriage. And many people talk about they don't like that, and why can't it be two leaders and multiple leaders, etc., etc., etc. But really and truly, there really isn't any organization, any effective body that functions with two equal leaders or with multiple equal leaders. So even if you're saying that you want a ground up grassroots approach, you're still going to have direction from the leadership. That's understood. Positive relations says see and come live with me is two different things. True, I have no doubt about that. Also joining the discussion was political leader of the Unity of the People, Nkosi Phillips, who said the idea of independence never sat right in the first place, and there is only one option. This election is to be called immediately, and if it is that you feel you would have won the election on the basis that people voted for you, and that is why you won, then call an election and put your money where your mouth is. That is what is supposed to happen. I agree in theory. Like, to me, in terms of democratic principle, if you're talking about, if you're saying I'm a believer in democratic principle, I want the democratic principles to stand ahead here. Well, then I would say the democratic principle in this case probably should be that you call fresh elections to make sure that the people of Tobago want to give you in your new party a mandate. To me, it seems kind of strange to be elected under one banner, to after the election take off that banner and put on a new banner. That seems a bit strange. Now, I understand you may not be legally mandated to do it, but in terms of the spirit of democracy, I kind of lean towards that idea too. THA independents meet to discuss new political party. Farley Augustine told reporters, one of the things I was very clear on when the team approached me and we discussed this matter was that I, Farley Chavez Augustine, will not be registering a party name or symbol because given my experience and what I have seen in the political history of Tobago, it should never ever happen again where a political leader at some point can turn around and say, well, look, this is my party, I own it, I register it, it is in my name and I will do what I want. Positive Radiation says, ask Nkosi how much elections he contested and how much votes he got. I will not ask the man that disrespectful question, Positive Radiation. Nylon, I'm not sure what that spells. Neil 51. The position to create a party by the people means no one person can oust members for personal reasons. Okay, I understand what you're saying there, guy with the numbers in his name. But then how would disciplinary actions take place? Are you saying that the only way disciplinary actions could take place is you go bring it to the party and you have to get everyone in the party to agree with everything? That's a bureaucratic system that doesn't augur for good efficiency. Nearly any organization that runs where every decision has to go through a group of people in order to make the decision, they don't successfully run like that. For example, in the United States, they have a Congress and a Senate, but the reason they don't allow the country to necessarily be run by just the Congress and the Senate is because when there are executive decisions to be made, there needs to be one person who is able to make those executive decisions. Thus, they have their executive, their president. You can form a disciplinary committee. Yes, you can. What is wrong with grassroots leading the process for a new party? I never said anything is wrong with that, Positive Radiation. I never once said it. Now, I have some questions here. When you say grassroots leading, how are they doing that in terms of the legal framework? Is this party going to be registered as a corporation? Because bear in mind, many political parties are registered basically as a private corporation. If you're registering the party as a private corporation, what is the structure you're registering it as? And okay, Mr. Augustine isn't going to register the party name and symbol. Who is going to register the party name and symbol? Does the Elections and Boundaries Commission allow for a group of 100 people to all sign together and say that all 100 of us as the Legion together have registered this party and we speak together in unity? Is that even possible? Or are we being laundered a theory here where it's going to be set its grassroots, but at the end of the day, it's still going to be one person's name registering the thing, one person's name as the director, etc., etc., etc. And we're just going to be told a kind of mama guy to make it seem like, yeah, now Positive Radiation, I am not saying this to say that their party structure is worse than the Rising Sun or the Balize. I am not saying that. The Rising Sun and Balize are run by their what they call that. It's not their board. What's the name for that? I was watching the structures earlier today. I can't remember the name. Why are PNM stronghold areas separated in parts compared to larger constituencies? Well, you have to understand, Judd Mohammed, that constituencies are based on the number of people. National Executive. Thank you, Subaru. Thank you very much. The constituencies are based on number of people. So the Diego Martin Basin, between those two mountains that hold that Diego Martin region, that's the most densely populated area in Trinidad and Tobago. You cannot expect that all of Diego Martin would all be represented by one constituency while they are so densely populated with so many people. And Mearu, which is stretched out with not that many people in a wider area, would be the same, would have the same representation. It doesn't work like that. A committee should be used to make decisions. An erratic one person will result in what Watson did. Okay. A committee should be made to make decisions. So would the party be run solely by the committee? Because who is going to be the political leader of the party? Are we going to have a position? Like, think about what you're asking about here. Are we going to have a position where the political leader of the party is subject underneath to the rules of the council, of the committee? Like, I'm trying to understand how this is all going to work. Would the political leader have to fall under the authority of the committee? Remember, okay, there's the party politics side, but then there's the national politics side. And how the party politics runs has to work with the national politics too. So when you say it's run by committee, how is that going to happen? Let me hear your positive relation. I like some explanation there. If you have any, that is.
A special good night.
Special good night, sir.
Special good night is extended to Nathan Springer. A special good night is extended to all the regular members of Mindful Life and to you, our participants and viewers. Interestingly, the conversation that we are having tonight is a critical part, or should I say, why the meeting was called, or the convention, or the first political convention was called on last night. A number of the things you are discussing here did come up at the meeting last night.
I would believe so.
That's why the media was put out, because these exact things are some of the issues that they're now beginning to trash out and to work through. And going forward at some of the other conventions to come, these are the same questions and issues. They're going to sit as a team and figure out what are the best are we going to. So this is why, as Gordon was saying, it's a new thing starting, yes. You have to leave room for tea, you have to leave room for discussion. So these discussions we are having tonight would be enriching and enlifting to those who are part of the creative process. So let's not see that you judge them based on what you have seen before. Because when you are changing a system or you're doing something different, you're doing something new, it is going to be uncomfortable. It is going to have persons uneasy. Sometimes you don't agree with your system. So we have to respect those types of turbulent waters as they attempt to try something different, try something new. However, as I would always say, radicals change the world. So when you do something radically different, you will get a radical response. And in many years after, you will realize, okay, yes, this made sense. Yes, this was correct, or this didn't work. So we had a lot of room for growth and room for fluctuation. But however, the meeting that they had was very open, was very frank. They allowed persons to share their honest and their open views. Some of the names you mentioned in your introduction, I will have to address this afternoon. Dr. Denise Soyafat Angus, from the belly of the beast. An individual who is well schooled and trained in a particular political structure. They abide by the Cosa Nostra code.
Isn't that the mafia, sir?
Dennis the Menace. Mr. Dennis the Menace. Spent his time there, can speak to no one.
Someone on the Instagram, just as a little bit inside there, positive. Someone on Instagram says only supporters attended. It was not an open forum. Just letting you know, someone said that. But go ahead.
I am speaking because I was present at the meeting.
I can tell.
There was a registration process that they waived due to the turnout. They did waive the registration process, and it was open to anybody who was interested and who would like to be a part of the process. It was open. I would go so far as to say some of the same young men that you saw in the Roxborough meeting, some of those same gentlemen who were in the room at that meeting, having their say and sharing their views. Some of the same young men who openly and publicly spoke against the administration.
Mm-hmm.
Which I felt very proud of being a young Tobagoan to see that you could publicly oppose your elected representatives.
What was the turnout like?
Still go to a meeting and face them following and still share your views and share what you think should be built going forward, which was very, very good.
What was the turnout like?
Say going forward, because the room that they took, the average I think the room could hold is 150, and it was standing room only. You had assemblymen literally getting up and giving their seats to other members in the audience. It's like some of the females who might come later, some of the elderly who were there. And they were overflow, so there were persons even out into the hallways, and another overflow room they had in the corner were filled too. The turnout was really, really good.
That's good.
It was a big turnout.
You know, to be very honest with you, many of the discussions we have about Tobago, granted, I understand many Tobagonians are frustrated about their things, but the discussions about Tobago make me feel like I can move to Tobago, you know, at least the ability you see in Tobago to at least have some access to the political level. Oh boy, I could wish for that. Now, to comment on some things that you said they're positive. I remember looking at someone reading about company startups, and someone that spoke about starting up companies and the growing pains in doing that. And they were saying that sometimes something you recognize is that you would start a company and you look at the older companies, you look at other companies that are there in the space before, and you're like, I'm going to do things revolutionarily different. And sometimes as you grow the company, I don't have an HR department. Who needs that? As you reach to a certain size, you recognize, oh, damn it. That's why you need an HR department. And you bounce up into certain things where you recognize, oh, the idealistic vision I had of running this thing actually is impossible when the rubber meets the road. So that's why I'm asking these questions, and I understand that, you know, there needs to be, as it were, room for growing pains. But when you're dealing with people's life, there's only so much room for growing pains that would be allowed, because you don't go into the job of a politician saying that, folks, I am going to give you all growing pains and I'm hoping for the best in the next 10 years. You go in there saying that I can do better for you all in my term. Not that I am going to necessarily be experimenting here. So you must understand, when you're dealing with the stability of people's lives, the amount of latitude you get for growing pains is very limited. And then in that case, the questioning that you get, you need to be very circumspect in your answering. And what you said there, positive relation, augurs well for them, that they let in basically an open crowd and was willing to answer the questions that they were presented with, because that's the real important part. Sylvan Trinidad says, is it true that Tobago has voted for 5 different parties at one time or the other? I think that would be true. Lovely Tobago. Neil says that's why it's important not to destroy the system, but mend the cracks and smooth the kinks. You're talking there about the difference between revolution and reformation. There are people who are reformists. So if you reform things, you're aiming to tweak it. We keep what works and we just try to make a shade of a change. And I'm much more of a reformer. I'm much more of a reformer than the whole revolutionary idea where you attempt to throw it upside down and change it around.
As well, too.
Yeah.
The things that I would have observed after assessing the room, conversations or regurgitated or rejects in and among them. But there's a reason why you have the elders a part of the team, because remember, they ran the oath before. When you hear somebody like Ocho Charles making a statement, he's not going to speak as yet. That is something you need to raise the tentacles at, because Mr. Charles is one of the persons who said openly in the media, I support Mr. Augustine, but not Mr. Duke. If Mr. Augustine is going on his own, I am going to support him. So when you see someone like Mr. Charles, who wrote the Tobago House of Assembly Act, and unfortunately was not allowed to lead while he was, even though he himself is a very interesting individual to deal with, and has his own nuances as well. But when you hear somebody like Ocho Charles reserving comment and looking to see how things go, is something I think nationally you're going to look at. So I believe in some areas, yes, some areas no, but the conversation has just begun. This is not the end of the conversation. Yes, there's a draft constitution. Yes, there's a draft organizational structure. But these are all drafts. These were meetings. And what is so genuine about these conversations is to see the young share their views, to see the old opposed, is to see that level of respectful conversation, the ability to disagree in a public space and not feel offended and not feel disrespected. It's something that we haven't seen in a while in a number of spaces. And if you were not in the environment to experience it, you would always say this is a fallacy and it's just fancy talk. And we're not able to say because the media wasn't allowed. But people would not share freely knowing that they are...
Yeah. I completely like that part. I think I saw some people trying to criticize that part, but I completely understand that. You want people to express themselves clearly. There are some people who might be conscious about their command of the English language, their command of grammar. They wouldn't want to see what they might want to see if they know that a camera might be beaming that out to the entire country. No. I understand that completely.
Yeah, well, memeing culture. They might be the next meme.
Exactly. People, that's perfectly understood why you would want, because it's not necessarily like it had privacy. As you said, you could have gone in, but the media wasn't allowed there to make a media spectacle of the thing. That makes sense. And I am of the same view like Mr. Charles in this position. I will say I am at the wait and see kind of point, because what they're saying sounds good, but what Mr. Augustine was saying for a while, I've said this before in the live, I regularly said this, a lot of what Mr. Augustine said has sounded good before. So I'd like to see the execution of this, because regularly you hear some people saying that there is some struggle to see the execution side of all of this. So I guess we'll be looking to see that. So, for example, I saw the minority leader, and I know some people who are more on the PDP side might have no interest in hearing what the minority leader would say. But I think these criticisms still make sense to listen to if you want to keep your feet to the fire. Minority leader tells Chief Secretary, provide proof of MOU with Jamaica University. And the reason this article stuck out to me is because I remember a previous Tobago day when Ronnie was telling us about this, that they've been asking, or some people in Tobago are asking to see the actual proof of what they have done. Okay, you went out there to this, you went to this convention, to this, that, to this, the other. Okay, where's the proof of it? You tell us by words that you're doing this and you're doing this for our betterment, and you have done this meeting, you have met this one, you have signed that. Well, show us the proof of it. THA Minority Leader Kelvin Morris has called on Chief Secretary Farley Augustine to produce the Memorandum of Understanding he said he signed with the University of Technology in Jamaica earlier this month, after leading a delegation to the International Tourismus Bourse trade show in Berlin, Germany from March 7th to 9th. Augustine stopped off in Jamaica to participate in the signing of an MOU. And the problem that the minority leader seems to be having here, the question that he's trying to really get out there is, are we wasting money on these moves? The Darrell Spring Whim assemblyman raised the issue as he complained about what he considered to be the lack of transparency with respect to overseas travel by THA officials. For example, he claimed that a record-breaking 4 secretaries were among a contingent of about 12 people who accompanied Augustine on his trip to Jamaica. What we are seeing in the Tobago space is a consistent sort of secret operation where persons are jetting out and about using taxpayers' money without reporting to the taxpayers as to what were the objectives of the trip and whether the objectives were achieved. The chief secretary has been running and ducking and hiding and dancing to produce this information. Morris claimed last week at the aborted plenary sitting he received an incomplete document about traveling expenses within the THA. Quite interestingly, the division we know for a fact that would have engaged in the most traveling over the period, their information is missing. So I'm asking the chief secretary, was that a deliberate strategy of his administration to hide the figures and to hide the expense incurred by the division of tourism? So there are questions being raised about how the money is being spent. And this group that is priding itself on saying that they are being accountable to the people, there are allegations that they are not actually being as accountable as they say. Tobago is demanding actions, not just idea discussions and fancy speeches. Work time. Yeah, positive. Anything on that?
When Nathan, in response to Neelan's, we addressed that issue on several Tobago lives. In terms of the problem with the execution of some of those projects. We have discussed that at length. So Mr. Neelan, I recommend you check out some of the previous lives. You will see where we went into detail as to where we believe some of the pros are in those areas. Yes, there have been some transparency issues, I would admit. I think the communications have slowed down a lot since this start, and I think it's something they need to work on. Imagine Pat Atel Kettle Ibati Black. That's how I will respond to those types of questions. Imagine Pat Atel Kettle Ibati Black.
You're right, positive. You're right.
Document. I am highly. No, allow me to finish.
Yeah.
I am highly suspicious if some of those documents from the previous 20 years' time are to be made public. I think some people may want to vacate the island of Tobago and relocate to places like Russia, Brazil, and Colombia. So I wouldn't speak much on those going forward. What I also think we have to look at is with the said Jamaica trip as it speaks to the housing. Do you know a house was built in Tobago in almost 2 weeks?
I did not know.
Almost 2 weeks. Foundation was done in about 3 days.
Oh. Well done.
Because one of the biggest downfall of this administration is they do not publish much of their success.
But the
ability to speak to the chief himself, I told him that. They don't publicize their success as much.
But the thing is, they do speak to the public. It's not like no members from their group speak to the public. There's this article here, a lady, their tourism secretary, basically gave a slight report. Tourism agency head trade fair will better prepare Tobago. If Tobago is supposed to grow its tourism business, grow its arrival and deepen economic activities derived from the tourism, Tobago cannot stay home. This was the view of Alicia Edwards, executive chairman of the Tobago Tourism Agency, who recently returned from the International Tourismus Boss Travel Trade Show from March 7 to 19 Berlin, Germany. Now, this is an entire article. You could read the article through. The lady gave several quotes. But the problem is the quotes have the kind of feel like what Neelan just said there. And that's what I think. Maybe if you have someone's ear, you could talk to them about that. When you're talking like this, people in Trinidad and Tobago, I think people in the political landscape, they've heard politicians speak before. If you come back from a trade show and you say, well, we have had invigorating meetings where we have met with several key stakeholders and discuss serious boilerplate issues that are right now on the front burner, and we will be dealing with them as soon as possible, people are going to look at you and think you are BSing them. Because you gave nothing concrete in what you said there, and that was kind of the feel. Yeah. Go ahead, yeah.
So does one meeting or one interaction result in a contract?
No, it does not.
I'm just asking.
No, it does not. It's very true.
Some of these things will take several discussions, follow-up meetings, sometimes visits for both parties involved. And also sometimes you don't want to preempt some of these activities. There are situations where you will give this, but you don't want to preempt. Sometimes you have already signed some of these contracts, or you already have intent, or you have letters of intent in some of these cases. So you don't want to preempt some of these programs, one. Two, this no, gimme, no, right now, culture is not good for the long-term development and long-term investment. No culture is when you live in an election cycle. Is when I come and give you some rum, I give you some money, buy some rum, cook some food for the boys, and when you vote for that, it does not help you in the long run, it does not help the organization. So I think we need to begin, I don't want to say we, but the population needs to transition into, and I know we like short-term goals and all of that, but we need to transition. Because we got 2020 vision from Patrick Manning, we bought into it. We're now in 2020-24, and we still can't see the 2020 vision.
Well,
so it's a very tricky balance to navigate.
He wasn't able to complete that. The thing is,
what I would
go ahead, finish your point.
What I would also say too as well is in some of these scenarios, you could build a system where I could run the administrative side of the Tobago House of Assembly without being an elected official. And I know we went into this in detail previously, but that's the way in which the system could operate over here. Familiarity breeds contempt.
Now, here's a part that I was wondering about as you brought that up, positive radiation. You threw me back to a thought I had previously and I forgot to say it. With some of the grassroots upbuilding that I am hearing, I am worried that it could create an avenue for things just like what you are talking about there. You see, the problem with grassroots up, you could create committees upon committees and subcommittees and this and that and that. And these would be party structures. These are not elected people. These are internal party structures. Now, when the party is being created, you would say that these are the people of Tobago. These are the grassroots people. Okay. But 5, 6, 7 years down the road, let's say this new party is elected again for next cycle in the Tobago House of Assembly. These people who were grassroots in 2023, come 2030, would be establishment. They would be the establishment. These people who decided how to run this new party would now be part of the establishment. And if you created a system where the grassroots has the power, not the THA, not the chief secretary and those people. No, the grassroots members of the party are those with the power. You could end up in a situation come 2030 in the future, as you were talking about, looking further on, where you're looking at the party and recognizing the party is impossible to actually have a democratic influence by the people of Tobago. You end up with a situation where the party is opaque. You recreate the PNM again. You cannot choose to change Dr. Rowley from going up for elections.
I'm just going to say that. And this is why, as I said previously before I began, this is why these types of conversations are critical.
Yep.
Because the reality is now this current leadership structure of the organization is going to change in the next couple of years. Because the reality is the team that we have now, or the group that we have now, they are going to gradually age out of some things. Times are going to change. Technology is going to change. So there are a number of things that will shift. And our constitution is supposed to be a living thing. It's supposed to change.
Suppose.
However, that is one of the downsides with the democratic system. Because sometimes what the majority say may not always be the correct thing or may not always be the best. And in an electoral system, when you put it like that, you just give the majority whatever you want to earn the vote. So if the majority say go X, you could know as the leader, X is going to lead into problems. But if you go against the majority, as we have seen with E.N.R. Robinson, you know the country needed a different position. In order to implement any serious change in Trinidad and Tobago, you have to make up your mind to be a one-term politician.
Yeah.
When you're a one-term politician and you're not entitled to no pension, no benefits, you get nothing. But that is the only way you can implement serious critical change.
You're right. And the idea that you would do things that may seem sacrificial to yourself in order to get a better outcome for the society, for the future, for generations to come, is something many people don't have. I clipped a nice piece of the Monday Night Live, because the Monday night where I was having the discussion with Krimak. That was a nice piece. I clipped a nice piece, and I'm going to drop that on TikTok and Instagram tomorrow, because it says something where we were having the discussion, and he was basically saying that if he was there back in World War II, well, if you have a price to pay, you obey the cruelty and wrongs of the people, or you might end up facing the punishment yourself. Well, who is going to sacrifice themselves to help other people? And when you hear people like that, when you hear things like that, you understand that many times a country is doomed. Because that's the nature of many of the people in the country. Many of the people in the country, if they have an option between seeking their own interest or doing something that may work against their own interest but may work out for the country's better interest in the long run, very, 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 very few people are actually going to do that. That's why so regularly, I keep saying it, I regularly say it, and I'll say it again. The idea that our hopes in finding solutions, our hopes in making things better for ourselves are dependent on finding a good political leader and putting them in a position of power and they would make those decisions. I don't have that kind of hope. I am sorry. My hopes are in speaking to regular individuals and individuals making the individual change, and hopefully if we could have enough individuals make the individual change, then maybe we could have an effect on the larger system. That idea that somehow we're going to work on the larger system and not the individuals first, I don't think that's feasible.
But even if you have an individual who can really implement and do that, the amount of pushback they're going to get based on the way the system was built over a number of years, it's kind of redundant. So sometimes, one of the things that I also have observed, and this may sound unpopular comment from me, but there were elements of the previous administration that they had no control over some things too. When you really begin to look at the way the system operates, you realize they are not caught in a trap system in some areas. Some areas their hands were really tied as well.
Positive.
And other organizations or persons going to governance see these things and they don't say that to the general public because it will affect party financing.
Correct.
It will affect this individual who is my friend, this individual who worked for me for years and know too much of my business. So it's like the whole system is a trap. So that is why, and the president made a key statement the night following to the mission from office that we missed as a population and the media did not give it enough air.
What's that?
We have a number of right-thinking persons who can do excellent work, choose not to serve nationally because of the level of criticism, the level of interrogacy, and they just feel that they're going to get tired.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact. And I licks political parties on their failures, and I'd blame the UNC for that one mostly, because the opposition party is vitriolic. They're some of the most bitter people when they are aiming at you. And sometimes you see, I remember for the COVID, they started on Dr. Parasram, and okay, there are some criticisms to make about COVID, but those criticisms can be made the world over. That wasn't a personal criticism of Dr. Parasram himself. And when you saw some of the things that they started to say about the man, I understand totally. Like if today or tomorrow the Prime Minister calls me and asks me to take a job, I kind of do care to take the job and say forget about you all. You all can say what you want if I think I could do something, but I could understand why there'll be that apprehension, because you know for sure there's going to be someone calling you an old dirty PNM and trying to dig up stuff on you and That doesn't help the country. That doesn't work. That doesn't help people. If you are one of those people out there just talking bitter nonsense on political pages, you are harming your country. You are not actually helping anything in the country. We aren't getting progress from that kind of behavior. No. But what you were saying there, positive, is 100% right. I have recognized a while now that many politicians aren't as independent actors as you might think. Probably 90% of the decisions that politicians make, the decisions that they make, are already decided for them. They can't change the decision. They are in a position in order to carry out the duty that is expected of them. They don't have the power to change it. They have the power to do the duty. It's like if you're hired as a batsman to go out to play cricket on a cricket field. You could hit the ball for 6. You could hit the ball for 4. Oh, is my data working there? You could hit the one for 6. You could hit the ball for 6. You could hit the ball for 4. You could get a single run. You could get 3 runs. You could get different varieties of that. But you could only bat the ball. That's all you could do. You cannot play football once you enter that. You cannot change the game to tennis. You have a bat. There's a wicket behind you. When the ball hits the wicket, if the ball hits the wicket, the umpire raises his finger and you have to leave the field. You cannot change those rules. That's the reality there. You don't have the power to change those rules like that. So very often, politicians, when they get into a position, they're kind of locked into a pretty rigorous set of rules that they cannot just do what they want. You know what's the strangest thing? You know what's the strangest thing I recognize very often? The things that they are often most able to do is corruption. That's the strangest thing. They are most able very often to do corruption. Ask them to be able, like actually be able to get a systemic thing moved. When I was talking to the chairman of the Tunapuna Piako Regional Corporation, he was letting me know that they may, like, say you get money passed for one project and then something happens, that project now isn't the ideal thing. You want to move that money around. Good luck trying to move that money around. But you know, if you wanted to do something corruptly, it would have been done. So it's a balance in the system when you're looking from the outside. When you're looking from the outside, you have to understand not everything is the politicians' fault because they cannot make all the changes. Part of the problem is they promised that they could. That's part of the problem. People expect that they would because they promised they could. And they cannot. Hey! It's nearly 11 o'clock, folks. The time flew by today. The time really flew by today. If there are no further questions or comments, I think I'll call it a night there. I'll see you guys again tomorrow for the next Mindful Live. Tomorrow would be Thursday, and tomorrow is the Thursday Talks. Come with whatever you want to talk about. We have no topic tomorrow. No news articles specifically. Come with your topic. You could jump in the live over on TikTok. The live could hold up to 4 people, 4 guests. You could come in and you could talk. If you hear Nathan talking every night and you see this man talking rubbish, I have some arguments for this man. I want to hit him. Tomorrow night, Thursday, come with your arguments and tell me I'm talking nonsense if you think I'm talking nonsense. But be respectful. The admin's serious out here. They will kick you off. Because we have a nice discourse. We have a nice thing going here. We have a nice thing going here on the Mindful Life. I really enjoy this. I like the idea that we here in Trinidad and Tobago could come together and discuss our social issues and maybe get better solutions. Who knows, maybe a discussion we have here in the Mindful Life might actually help the new party out in Tobago to do things better. I thought you dove out in a positive relation. I was like, what went on with positive? My apologies for the kick out. I don't know how that happened. I think I had a little lag in the connection. Somebody was talking nonsense the other night, you know. Who was this somebody? Who you're talking about? The Mr. Smooth? Mr. Smooth who came in? Mr. Smooth was kissing Cloud9. When Mr. Smooth came in to talk his thing about COVID-19, whatever night that was, Mr. Smooth was on the tippy top of the tippy top cloud. He probably can't even remember what he said. Who is that then, Nisi? Are you referring to me? Or are you referring to the officer? If you're referring to the officer, there's a video coming tomorrow. Stay tuned for that, folks. It was nice. This has been the Mindful Live session. Tonight was Tobago Day. We talked about the Tobago issues. I will see you guys again tomorrow evening for Thursday, which is Talking Nights. We just talk. I don't know if it's you, you know. No. You weren't the officer I was talking to Monday night. The officer I was talking to was Krimak, not you. So, jump in tomorrow, let's talk. I hope you're educated, informed, and entertained. I was your host, Nathan Springer. I'm now going to retire for the night, taking something else for the evening, enjoy some time with baby girl. So you all go and do the same. Big up your family. Link up nice. Stay safe. Hold it down. I'll see you guys again for the next Mindful Live session, which should be tomorrow night, Thursday evening, around that 9:30 p.m. time. Until then, people, see y'all. Peace. Laters.